sure all of you are looking forward to what you might have to say today. Yemi Kandi Johnson, Dobale Koki Papa.
Yes, Elder. I'm on guns.
Okay. Gwede. Thanks for coming the other day.
Pleasure.
It was nice.
It's
It was
my
nice.
pleasure.
I think the bigger fun was the fact that almost everybody there was a personal friend.
Yes.
And people were not invited by title or anything.
Very cozy.
I like cozy things.
Yes, very elegant, very distinguished.
Okay, so Yemi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I've missed you for a while. We haven't spoken for about a month.
That's true. Nothing's been going on in the world.
There's a lot been going on. I haven't taken your opinion on the President's declaration of emergency and the appointment of an administrator. That, of course, will then lead us to the issue of the NBA, but let's start from there. Do you think it was constitutional for him to actually appoint that? We know that of the state of emergency, but to appoint an administrator?
Well, whatever people feel about the merits of the decision is separate from whether it is legal and whether it is constitutional. To answer your question simply, I would say that on the face of it, the president has complied with the law.
On the face of it?
Yes. If this was not so, it would require a different authority to question the declaration made by the president. But the law is quite simple and quite clear, and it's not something that is emotional or something that's out of the experience of countries across the world. I mean, there have been 5 declarations of emergency in Pakistan in the same period. India, the Philippines, the UK declared emergency in Ireland when they were trying to suppress rebellion in Ireland. They declared emergencies in Kenya. The idea is not unusual. The question that would arise in any particular case is whether there is a factual and a legal basis for the declaration of emergency. Our constitution is quite clear. In fact, a lot of the declarations that we've had under this 1999 constitution have been made. One made by President Goodluck Jonathan, one made by President Obasanjo, and this one as well. They've been controversial on each occasion. The most controversial declaration of emergency is the declaration of emergency made by the Tafawa Balewa government in 1962. Extensive debate was had on that declaration in the Nigerian Parliament. I was reading only recently the debates. Sir Tafawa Balewa proposed the motion. Chief Obafemi Awolowo opposed it, basically on the ground that there was no factual basis upon which the declaration could be made. But the facts that justify a declaration are facts that must be evaluated subjectively by the President, Commander-in-Chief. Nigeria is one sovereign state. The division into states and regions is for the purpose of administration and for bringing government accountability to the lowest possible level. But in effect, the territorial integrity and the sovereignty and the safety of the entire federation is a federal matter. This is why our own constitution specifically recognizes that in specific circumstances, a declaration of emergency may be made. One aspect of that question is as to whether it can be made. I have said that if the president is satisfied, then the procedure is that he will make a declaration on facts known to him. Either there is a breakdown of law and order. There are a specific number of items listed in the section of the Constitution. One of them is that there is a threat or a fear or reasonable apprehension of a breakdown of law and order.
A threat or a fear.
Exactly. So if the
president, it doesn't have to happen.
No. There could be a breakdown. There could be a fear. In the Western region in 1962, there was a fracas on the floor of the House of Assembly. And in the debates before the Parliament, Chief Awolowo said this was not as serious as what had happened in Okrika or what had happened in the Tiv division previously, where there was breakdown of law and order on the streets. But the disruption in the Parliament of the Western region and the fact that there was a question as to who was in control of the government, which was the justification that the federal government gave, that there was no clear, legitimate government in Western Nigeria, and that therefore they were going to declare an emergency. Now, having formed a factual view and having decided to exercise a legal power to declare an emergency, the second check that the Constitution imposes, as it did in 62 and in many other cases, is that you then come to the Parliament and tell the Parliament, I made a declaration, I need you to confirm it, and I need to tell you why I have done so. The test of our democratic practice is in how the people who have power exercise it. The seal on the declaration by the President is the confirmation by the National Assembly.
Yeah.
that is a political decision. So based on the facts the president apprehends, a legal step has been taken. The legal procedure under the Constitution says that the National Assembly must confirm it. National Assembly confirms it. So
by two-thirds majority.
Simple question.
Can you get a two-thirds majority by acclamation?
I do not think that acclamation is a safe way to determine two-thirds majority.
Is it any way at all? Can you?
Well,
can you rely on
the
that?
procedure of the Parliament is determined by the Parliament. If the Parliament says we can determine any question by voice vote, it's difficult for any other body to inquire into the internal procedure of the National Assembly. In 1962, if you look at the debates, everybody who voted for is listed, everybody who voted against is listed.
Yeah.
It's a historic and monumental decision, and it should not, in my opinion, be covered by noise. And anyway, we've seen how the voice votes are conducted in the Senate. It borders on farce. The Senate president decides what he likes to hear.
If you take into cognizance the Senate president's reaction to Senator Dixon, when Senator Dixon, that's the former Bayelsa governor,
yes, Seriake
Dixon wanted to raise a point of order.
Yes.
And he said, I heard you yesterday on TV, and he implied, I don't know his exact, I can't remember his exact words, to the fact that what you are going to say is not in line with what the Senate has decided. The Senate hasn't decided. But he said what you want to say is not in line with what... Does that appear to be something transparent?
The short answer is no.
No.
I think that in any political situation, that there will be views, even in a boardroom, there are agreements and pre-agreements, and very often you are looking for a consensus even before you go to a formal meeting. That is obvious. But this needs to be handled with tact and with maturity. I suspect that the Senate president is not a very... what's the word?
You look for the word.
He's not very refined in his approach to public expression.
Yeah,
I think that he discards niceties in a way that very often undermines even careful preparation. I think that's a problem that he has, and there are a lot of Nigerians like that who feel that shouting and rough approach, but then this doesn't stand the test of history. You need to realize when you have a seriously momentous public or constitutional occasion that you need to manage it well. You need to express yourself clearly for the record.
I don't want to get personal with him, but it does give me worry. Do you think he understands the role of Parliament in governance? I suspect that he sees himself and he sees the Parliament as being set up to support the president. Whereas it should be an arbiter, really. It doesn't see itself as being some kind of balance.
Yes. Well, it is beneficial if all arms of government work towards the same objective.
Sure.
But the design of our Constitution is to make each one a check on the other for the purpose of attaining the democratic outcome for the wide majority of our people. So the Senate, in questioning or reviewing actions by the executive, ought to do so with high judgment, with intellectual refinement, with a rational approach, calm consideration. It's supposed to be a deliberative body. It's where the nation takes its most weighty problems to be thought about in a public forum. I don't think it's fulfilling that objective. I think that a lot of the senators, and some I know personally to be men of high intellect, high character, and high morals, but I think that the environment which is being engendered in the Senate is one of a steamroller. It is to achieve the political intention of balance is not a priority for the Senate. The priority of the Senate is, as it appears from many recent actions, is to rubber stamp actions that have been taken by the executive.
Yes. And doesn't that affect the credibility of the outcome?
Well, of course it does. But everything is politics, you see. Even you can be a criminal and a liar and a thief and a rapist and be elected president of a country. You can be dishonest and disreputable and still, by the system that we've designed, the numbers favor you. So sometimes people think that's all that is important. It's not. The entire democratic package requires inspiration of confidence. The long-term sustenance of democracy is not in the fact that if you have power, if you have a majority power, it doesn't give you authority to abrogate rights of other people. That is not democracy. Democracy is not only about the elections and winning of elections. It's about how you perform the government. And the most important thing about the functionality of a government is what it communicates to the people. I can rest safe in this environment because I have trust in the government. If the government or arms of it do things persistently which are inconsistent with public trust, then ultimately they undermine their own power.
Okay, we didn't even, I don't think we ever got together since this Senator Natasha case came out. There was a development 2 days ago with your colleague, Olisa Agbakoba. He says he represents Godswill Akpabio.
It's nice.
In the case. He doesn't represent the Senate president or his wife. Okay. Because what he brought to the table, he said that Senator Natasha's case is quite inconsistent. And my reaction in the social media is, why don't you tell your client to go to court to redeem his image? There appears to be some reluctance in doing that, which I know, but I won't. I can guess as much, but I won't bother. But I'm just wondering what you think of that whole scenario.
Well, first thing I should say is that Olisa Agbakoba is an intelligent man. He has
Extremely,
wisdom and judgment. And I would have thought that if he represents a man who's under public attack in this way, it should be to the benefit of that individual. I think that he's chosen strong representation, and I hope that Olisa Agbakoba will give him sound legal and practical advice, and that he will take it.
What's the practical advice?
What would I advise him?
Yes.
Well, the first thing that...
Before you know, he might come to you.
I'm not in the country today. To give advice to a client, you have to hear the truth of the facts from him.
Yeah.
I don't know what those facts are. It's difficult to say what they are. If Olisa Agbakoba is the lawyer to the Senate President, or not to the Senate President, to Senator Godswill Akpabio, then I will assume that he has taken a full brief from him and that he knows all the facts. On the basis of those facts, he will be able to determine how he should approach it. And certainly, if I had facts on either side, I would exercise both legal, moral, and even political judgment in telling an exposed person of that nature how he should respond.
What does your inner feeling tell you? I tell you what my inner feeling tells me. I think that above all things, there seems to be some reluctance on the part of Akpabio to push for what I would have considered justice if I was so maligned. Because I have a funny feeling that maybe nobody is too sure what Senator Natasha could bring out of the rabbit hole. That is the feeling that I get. And even from Agbakoba's submission, you could see, because if I knew for sure I was 100% innocent, I'd fire from all cylinders. But there seems to be... And meanwhile, other actions that have taken place have then beclouded the issue and messed it up completely. So how do you think this gentleman can get out of all this?
If you have power, the first thing that you tend to reach for is those levers of power, and you try to steamroll your way through a situation that is difficult or complicated. I think that's been tried. I think that Senator Natasha, I think as she's now fondly called, was not one who was willing to be steamrolled, and she has proved to be more resilient than an ordinary woman who might otherwise, in a male-dominated society or group, been brushed aside. So, frankly, I salute her for that. But to the point about the Senate President himself, indeed, if you have a character that is worthy of protection, there are multiple levers of law by which you can provide it. But it requires, above all, that you have that character. In a libel action, for example, your entire character is at issue. So how do we say this? If I say that you called me a thief and you were wrong, but in the trial I can prove that you are a rapist or a liar, then the court may legitimately come to the view that notwithstanding that one incident is untrue, other things that you have done in the past mean that you do not have a reputation that is worthy of protection. So anybody who commences a libel action puts his entire character in issue. That is a dangerous thing.
In this case, does it help that there'd been a lady in the past who claimed to have slapped him?
Well, if that's
such
an incident would be relevant in determining the overall character of a libel claimant.
Strongly relevant, would you say?
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yes, I would say so. I mean, like I said, many years ago, the Nigerian Supreme Court justices sued, I can't remember, it was a Punch newspaper over an allegation they'd received cars from President Babangida. And I remember at the time having a discussion with one judge who I knew quite well, and saying, only one judge decided it was prudent for him not to sue, but the rest who sued eventually had to collapse the case and withdraw. Because I say it's a very difficult thing to defend your entire reputation. And then you go to court and they will ask you a question like, Mr. Disu, did you...
No, use him as an example.
him, did you get your house girl pregnant? And he will say no. And the headline the next day will say, Mr. X denies impregnating his house girl.
Yes.
That's all that people are going to read is impregnating and him.
House girl, yeah.
So it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous to commence libel action if your slate is not clean.
Especially in this particular case. It's going to be interesting, but how ultimately do you think there could be some kind of settlement without having to go to court? I think Olisa might be headed in that direction.
Yes, I just remembered a nice Yoruba proverb. I know you like them. When I was speaking about the resilience of Senator Natasha, the Yoruba say that, and it sounds better in Yoruba than in English, that it's true that a needle is a small thing, but a chicken cannot swallow it.
Yes. I think Olisa will help him, but it's going to be tough. Do you sometimes not take certain cases with the fear that it could also bring you to disrepute?
100%. There are people whose cases I would be very unwilling to plunge into. I mean, if somebody has a case, even if you don't like them, if they come to you and they have a case, in a civil case, in England they have what they call the cab rank principle. In a criminal case, you take any brief that comes to you because everybody is entitled to defense, and it's fundamental to their criminal justice system that competent attorneys handle any type of case. But in a civil case, you can make a decision more circumspectly for yourself. That is, this is the sort of person I want to represent. If I'm representing men of honor, it affects my representation of them if I'm now known as a lawyer of a gangster. So I must exercise a judgment, and I'm entitled to determine who I will and won't. In this, a problem with our legal practice, and I don't say it applies in this case, is that people think that money is the most important consideration. He can give you big money. Well, I personally think that there are things more important than big money. And I think a lot of lawyers do as well.
So you're not likely to have taken this case in case you were approached?
I am unlikely to have been approached in an event for many reasons.
From the onset anyway?
Yes. This is not part of my network.
Our lines are open. Are your two phones working, Olga? No. Just this one? Okay, 020127709993 is working. Is the other line working? No, okay. So I'll call 020127709993. Let's pick that call. Hello, good morning. Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Uncle Jimmy, good morning, sir.
Morning.
Good morning, sir, Uncle Jimmy.
Morning.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Okay, my name is Ugochukwu from Akaribo Road in Shagam.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I want to ask the Candy Johnson a question. The president
Mr.
has
Candy
been
Johnson,
going out
please.
all the time.
Mr. Candy
Okay,
Johnson.
sorry, sir. Yes, sir. The president has been going out. They say they call it working holiday. I don't understand. But according to the law, is it right for the president to just go out, then from France, you just take a detour to London without telling the people that you are governing, the people that voted you in, that this is what I want to go and do. After this, I will go to this place and do another thing.
Okay, the point is
can the lawyer, yes.
Yes, okay, he wants to.
Yes,
let me put it in a better way so that he wants you to determine the legality of the president being away for X number of days and not handing over to the vice president. Whether he now goes from London to this, to that, on a walking tour.
That's a matter for his travel agents. But as far as the question is, the president, if he's away from the country, I think it's 21 days.
21 days.
Should appoint somebody to act. This president, I don't think, has contravened the constitution. You may not like
he hasn't been gone for 21 days.
He hasn't. No. So he hasn't contravened the constitution. You may not like where he's going to, or you may look for a stick to beat him for the purpose of traveling.
Beat up his travel agent.
Oh, yes. So I think it's not a big point.
What if it's a medical problem? Because part of the problem now is I can almost safely say he's incommunicado.
Well, I don't know what is the level of communication he has with his ministers, which is what is important.
But we haven't heard his voice. I mean, that is, in fact, the reason for giving for his travel. He didn't say he was going on vacation.
Yes.
He said he was going on some walking so that he could reflect.
Yes.
You know, all these mumbo jumbo.
We may say we're not sure of why he's gone out. And we're entitled to have an idea about his medical health, if indeed it is something that imperils his capacity to function. And this is the truth. But his movement must be determined by himself. The level of communication he has with his ministers is what determines his effectiveness. And I wouldn't really inquire into the reason why he's going. Look, this is a job that I think very few people can sustain without it. My own job is very difficult to sustain without rest and relaxation. And I'm not even the president.
Okay, you're not the president. Maybe one day you will be. We've got to take a short break and we'll be right back.
Nigeria Info. We'll be right back. You can't choose when you get sick, but you could choose an HMO that helps you live more life. Now, you could choose an HMO with generic plans or Hygia HMO's customized plans for every stage of your life.
Now that's more like it.
You could choose an HMO with a handful of hospitals or Hygia HMO, which has a hospital network of over 2,000 providers within Nigeria with roaming options and no waiting time.
Yeah, that's more convenient.
You could also choose a cheaper HMO that doesn't quite meet your needs. Or you could have Hygia HMO's comprehensive yet affordable healthcare plans.
That's so amazing!
Life can be more with Hygia HMO. Live more life with Hygia HMO. Explore our comprehensive healthcare plans designed to meet your needs. Whether you're an individual, a family, elderly, an SME, or a corporate organization, we have affordable options for everyone. Visit our website at www.hygiahmo.com for more details. Hygia HMO. Live more life.
Every day is about winning with one play on Nigeria Info. On Nigeria Info, daily winnings is now over 150,000 naira. Just go to oneplay.ng or dial *347 *880 *3#. Play with as little as 500 naira, and in a few seconds, your ticket is in the draw. The more you play, the better your chances of winning every day on the Morning Crossfire, What's Up Lagos, and Game On shows on weekdays, and the Football Frenzy shows on weekends. But that's not all. Every Friday, there will be a 500,000 naira jackpot. Playing during the week automatically qualifies you for the weekly jackpot. Your chances of winning are the same whether you play on oneplay.ng or dial *347 *880 *3#. Remember to play responsibly. Not suitable for persons under the age of 18. OnePlay is a registered trademark under Lasho Trading Services Limited, licensed by the Lagos State Lotteries and Gaming Commission.
day when my children return from school, I don't recognize them. Hello? Do I know you?
It's us, mommy.
But these dirty sweaty uniforms and socks were clean in the morning. Everything don't transform. I understand though. School is hectic. It takes energy to come home this transformed. So I make sure they have some nutritious Milo at breakfast.
Your kids need nourishing energy. Give them Milo at breakfast. It has nutrients that support energy release to help them get the most out of their day. Milo, energy to go further.
Milo.
Introducing the essence of true authenticity in fragrance, Wazobia Perfume, the correct scent. A unique blend that captivates the authentic spirit of Nigeria, now available in both perfume and body spray variants. Designed for everyone. Yes, Wazobia is a unisex fragrance perfect for both men and women. Its rich and versatile aroma is a statement of inclusivity and unity. Unleash your confidence with each and every spray. Are you a retailer or do you love to buy in bulk? We've got you covered across Nigeria. Wazobia Perfume comes in cartons of 24 bottles and the body spray is available in cartons of 48 bottles. Interested in making Wazobia Perfume a part of your collection or store? For carton purchases, contact us at the email address contact@wazobiacosmetics.ng or call us at 0201 330 0047. That is 0201 330 0047. Our team is ready to assist you with your orders. Wazobia Perfume, the correct scent. Your new signature fragrance is just a call or a click away. Authentic, unisex, confidence, Wazobia.
We're back.
We're back.
We're back.
We're back.
We are back.
We're back on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
The Discourse with Jimi Disu
The Discourse with Jimi Disu
continues in a moment. And now, we are back on The Discourse with Jimi Disu.
All right, welcome back to the Discourse, and I'm having a discourse with Yemi Kandi Johnson, SAN. The other guy called, what did he call? He said, that's...
No, just said Kandi Johnson.
No, he said, that's Kandi Johnson. So I had to tell him that you are not any chief, by the way.
I'm not a chief. He's a young man. He's a young man.
But there we had the new Boba Towo of the Oba of Lagos. But I'm a traditional ruler. I'm the Dogu one, the Eric Moore of Eric Moore.
It's a powerful title.
Yes, and then put Esquire at the end.
Because you do have... Do you give chieftains... Maybe you can give me one chieftain.
I can give you one chieftain because you do what you do have now. There's one Oba that was written and said, Oba Doctor Engineer. I said, now we know where we're going. Well, okay, back to issues that are more in the territory. The Rivers State government is asking the NBA to refund the 300 million, which they said, according to them, were the hosting rights. Now, I don't know whether the hosting rights were documented or implied. But I know that the NBA shifted their convention on point principle. So there's something in between now. Do you think the NBA should be refunding the 300 million?
I think, first of all, there's a problem with a professional association collecting money from governments in a covert fashion. I think that this has become a habit. The history of the Bar Association shows that after the crisis, I think 1992, when there was when the MBA was prescribed by General Babangida, the certain rules and principles were agreed. One of which was take steps to avoid political interference in the operation of Nigerian Bar Association, which is primarily a professional body. The problem with the Nigerian Bar Association primarily is that it doesn't focus on professional development, which is its primary mandate, and it focuses more on political interventions, which is what ensnares it in the machinations of politicians. If you capture the president of the NBA, you have a mouthpiece, it seems, that could be for or against you in political duels. That, I think, is a public perception. Many politicians do this. And so, therefore, in the recent history, governments and governors have sponsored Bar Association presidencies, elections. Billions are spent on these contests of a professional organization. And political actors intervene by providing funds, which is more or less a slush fund unaccounted for. There are more than anecdotal evidence that monies given by governments to leaders of the bar often cause friction and fraction amongst themselves over the sharing of the money. Someone said to me that talking about 300 million is probably already been divided like a slaughtered ram amongst a variety of people. So this money may not have been come to public knowledge, it may not have been accounted for, and I suspect that even now it cannot be accounted for. So it's problematic for those who have received it, and I don't know under what guise they've received it, to account for it. This is the first problem, that it politically compromises the Bar Association to take money from politicians. The only legitimate reason for which a government could give such a grant is for the purpose of hosting rights,
yes,
so to speak, because you're going to bring business to the state. You're going to employ bands, you're going to employ caterers, you're going to use hotels, you're going to use transport. So it's a good investment for a government. And that would be a legitimate reason for the River State government to make such a donation, however you choose to call it. And although that would not justify the MBA in receiving it. So the River State government, in my opinion, has a point when it says, if you're not having the conference here, can we have our money back? Get your money from the Enugu State government. Now, the counter-arguments that the MBA is moving this because of a matter of principle, because they don't like the constitutional arrangement or they oppose the political decisions that have been taken in connection with River State, I think is quite flimsy. It's quite flimsy. It misses the point. Whatever stance you take must be consistent. You know, the testimony of any individual depends on the impression, the character of the person. You have to say, my state has to be clean if I'm to testify. Someone asked a question many years ago. A prostitute witnesses a murder, and in cross-examination they ask her about her sex life. Does sex affect her sight? It doesn't. No. It affects her credibility. And that is the currency when people are pontificating and making moral judgments about others. The MBA is making moral judgments, moral statements. The suspicion, again, at the back of many minds would be that these are not sincere and that you cannot ascribe moral authority to yourself if you not behave in a way that is itself above board. So left to me, I would immediately return the money, if the money is still available to be returned, that is.
Do you think it would end up in court?
The embarrassment is more damaging than recovery of the money. 300 million naira is not money that lawyers, that 3 or 4 lawyers could put together 300 million.
So will you be donating to the MBA to save the profession? Do you probably give them, can I commit you to 100 million?
No, you can't. I know the lawyers who have money to donate, and they'd be delighted.
And you're not one of them.
And they'd be delighted to have their names up in the lights. So I prefer to live a quiet life, and I don't have 100 million.
The lawyer who recently got a big brief, I'm sure will be able to put some substantial. This big there's a lawyer we know who recently got a big brief from a Top Gun. So
well, you know,
maybe
if indeed you have a large amount of money and you and it's come to you by surprise. If you won the lottery, for example,
yes.
And sometimes a legal brief can be like a lottery. I remember an old lawyer telling me every lawyer has 1 or 2 windfalls every year. And experience teaches that. You may be on a steady keel, making 10s and 20s, and one day you make 100. That's possible. But then if the profession has given you something, then you should give it something back. And a president of the MBA who is defending the profession, who is upholding it, and who's upstanding, would have power to go to any number of leading lawyers in Nigeria and raise 300 million in one afternoon. But when you receive what looks like a slush fund from a government, and who knew about this until it was publicized, then who accounts for it? I've heard lots of stories, some that don't bear repeating, about previous presidents being. In fact, someone said to me in one case, the money that was being given by the state government to the MBA was given to an attorney general. There was almost a fisticuffs between that attorney general and in the end, some money was shared to assuage feelings. Why should receiving money be the way that justifies your professional behavior when you hold a position of trust?
I would have thought that. So if I were a governor, for example, and I do want to support the MBA, I'd have said, okay, we'll give you 50 rooms in a hotel. We'll pick that up, not to give money.
Even a hotel owned by the government.
In a hotel owned by the government.
You're using it. But then when you give cash and nobody knows how the money's been, you can see why people fight about it. In fact, I think recently, MBA chairman in River State have said they don't support the moving of the conference because moving the conference moves the feeding trough.
Okay, we have a caller there. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Odogu 1 and 2 Esquire. Good morning, sir.
Morning. How are you?
The law. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, my Attorney General to be. Thank you very much. You answered the question.
I won't say amen to that. He doesn't want to be an Attorney General.
No, my own.
The Attorney General of England and Wales.
Can you pay him?
England and Wales.
England and Wales. Okay, go on quickly.
Odogu 1 and 2. You know, Yoruba say Omasheo.
Yes.
When I hear what some of the lawyers and judges are saying, whenever I hear the law speaks, I say Omasheo. And I like the answer I give to you. If I'm a lawyer, there's some cases. Pay me 1 billion, I will not attend that case.
Yeah.
I will not. So I want to thank him very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Do we have another caller there? We do. That's one. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Engineer Kundayo calling you from Ikorodu.
Yes, sir.
I just want to react quickly to the comment on Natasha and Mr. Apabio. And you see, in our statement at the Senate, the woman said that there are some underlying issues. That was when this issue of sexual harassment came up. But besides that, she had said that several times in the past that she tried to bring up the issue of Ajaokuta rolling mills, which is in our constituency, that Mr. Akpabio stepped it down. So these are circumstantial evidence.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's.
Sorry, sir. I don't want us to deviate. We just mentioned that in passing. We are not taking a critical look at what's going on between Senator Akpabio and Senator Natasha. It's for the two of them to settle. Hello, we have another caller. Hello, good morning.
Uncle Jimmy, good morning, sir.
Morning, how are you?
Fine, sir. I didn't tire of calling, sir.
Yes.
Your guest, really appreciate him. I think he has spoken well. I want to say a piece. When the court or the law that is the last defense for the common masses is receiving money from the politicians, then who will now fight for the common masses? Because once the law is receiving from them, they will tend to always favor them once it comes to judgment.
Okay,
thank you.
Okay,
yes, sir.
I think your point has been made. There is some people are still worried about the judiciary, and there's a common feeling that justice is difficult, extremely difficult to get. Also, another thing that worries me is the interpretation of Supreme Court rulings. Are we going to set up a body now? Do we have to set up a body to interpret to the letter, to the last word, Supreme Court rulings? I'm looking, for example, at the case that involves the PDP secretary or the Labour Party, where both parties were claiming victory. How do we go about that? I thought that lawyers would be above board and would be man enough, I'm honest enough to say that this is what the ruling says. If we have to keep going back for explanation down to the last letter, where are we headed in the...
Well, if we have to keep going back and there's ambiguity in the Supreme Court judgment,
yes,
that is a problem that the Supreme Court has to tackle by itself. When you go to the highest court in the land, the pronouncement must be like the pronouncement of Moses from the mountain on the tablets of clay. It should be clear and simple.
Simple.
Now, I think that there is a problem with a lot of our court judgments that, for a variety of reasons, they deliver ambiguity where they should deliver clarity. I don't comment about these particular decisions, but when you write in the Supreme Court, you should write for each judgment must be for all time. Of course, you can adjust the decision. But 2 days ago or a week ago, the UK Supreme Court gave a decision on the definition of a man and a woman under the Equalities Act of the UK. They held that in their judgment on this case that a man and a woman is determined biologically and effectively at birth. But the first thing they do is they deliver in open court a summary of their decision, in which case the presiding justice indicated what they intended to decide, what they intended not to decide, and how this was not to be used as an impression. He clarified that as an explanation. Then within 30 minutes, the full judgment was online.
Okay.
The U.S. Supreme Court, you can go to the U.S. Supreme Court and hear live arguments. And once they deliver a judgment, it is online, subject to analysis. The next day, the New York Times will tell you line by line what it determines, lawyers. It would be contemptuous to misinterpret deliberately a decision of a court. But the problem that you would have is if the judgment of the court is not unambiguous. And that, I think, is a challenge of legal writing and use of language, which I think that the court has the capacity to meet.
You think so?
I think so. You know, someone was asking me the other day about reforms in the court and the new Chief Justice, etc. You've asked me this before.
Yes.
And I was reading a speech given by the Chief Justice of Nigeria then in 2015 at Professor Kasumu's annual lecture. It's brilliant, crystal clear analysis of the problems of our judiciary and the path to its recovery. So, if you were to ask me if this Chief Justice is capable and can understand the problems of the judiciary, I would say yes.
Okay.
As to whether that would be executed, would be a different type of judgment for her to take.
We have a caller. Hello? Who's this? Hello? Hello? Morning. Morning.
Good morning, Uncle JD.
Morning.
Good morning to your guest as well.
Good morning.
I want to say thank you for the perspective you bring to discussions whenever you're on the show. God bless you, sir.
Thank you so much.
My question this morning, thank you, sir. My question this morning would be your take on the River State state of emergency. Because I was wondering, as a citizen, that if in River State there could be a state of emergency as against the other states where it's highly needed, the Plateau and the Benue, due to these gruesome killings. So what's your take on it exactly? Thank you very much.
That was the first issue we took on. Maybe you weren't around early enough. That was the first issue we took on for the first 10 minutes or so.
Okay.
That was what we spoke about. We have another caller. Hello, good morning. Hello? Hello?
Good morning, sir. Uncle JD. Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, you have to look here. Son, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
The big part of the previous question you answered, let me appreciate you. I liked your submission on the MBA issue. The second part of it is that you see politicians, especially the former River State governor has done it, more governors have done it. They will invite Chief Justice of Nigeria. For instance, we have Mr. Ariwola, the former, he was hosted by his state, hosted by River State. These are Supreme Court justices. And I remember the Chief Justice the Justice that resigned from, Niger State the other day, he was complaining. Why do we see our justices, our judges mingling with politicians in the open glare? Then what does it say about the independence of the judiciary?
Okay.
Thank you.
I'd always, Justice Elias was like my godfather. If we were Christians, he would be my godfather. I never saw him in fact, there was a judge, I remember way back then, who didn't go to the reception of his daughter's marriage. But things have changed since then. There was a time in the Lagos High Court, we had a CJ who was attending a function and they had judges' table. The judges had their own ashwebi and stuff like that. We've been through all that. Are we going to live with this? Do you think, are we going to live with this? Are we going to be saying to ourselves, that's the kind of people that we are, times have changed and we have to learn to live with it?
You know, a judge like Caesar's wife must be above suspicion. And it's the responsibility of a judge to conduct himself or herself and to present themselves in a way that avoids suspicion. So the question about attending functions, it's difficult some functions may be difficult to attend, but you have to know how you'd attend. I mean, it would be exceptional for JIC Taylor to turn up at somewhere, except it was his close friends, and he would be there for a small moment. I mean, I remember when my father was 50, there was a section where the judges sat, and even family members did not approach that side. So my friends, I mean, my friend Fusi Akinkwe, who's so he said to me, make sure we get judges' food, because we're not going to eat ordinary people's food. So you knew it was very important. You didn't conduct this. This question of judges wearing ashwabi, dancing, serving foods at parties, it detracts from the authority. You see, there's a mystique that goes with certain offices. We know that you're not a spirit, but you must move like a spirit. And like they say, if the masquerade dance is too long in the market square, even small children will see its feet. And this is the problem that we have. And so it looks like it's something untoward. It may be perfectly innocent, some of these encounters. But they have to be conscious of the fact that the greatest strength is public confidence. The judiciary requires public confidence. And apart from cases of fraud or stealing or bribery, which I don't know, you have to prove in an individual case, the general impression must not be given that judges are excessively accessible to political actors before whom who would appear before them.
But the feeling that some of us have is that the process that leads to people being appointed itself in the first instance has been abused.
Well, somebody has to appoint judges.
Yes, unfortunately.
In some places, they elect judges. I mean, U.S. Supreme Court justices, the English judges are appointed by, well, in England now, they have a judicial appointment authority, which is constructed to be impartial. So that means that recommendation comes out of a body that is transparent. In Nigeria, we have the National Judicial Council, which I think...
I mean, listen, one of the things that worries me, there's a very popular politician who people perceive has the judiciary under his inside his inner pocket.
I've seen those cartoons.
You've seen them?
Yes.
It's worrying, isn't it? Is it by coincidence?
Cartoons are meant to be humorous.
Well, is it by coincidence that he never loses any case he has an interest in?
I don't know whether that is the case, but if he won...
He sometimes implies it in the things that he says.
You know, a lot of
sometimes he boasts about it.
Power is something that should be exercised quietly to be effective. Even influence. I think that if people start talking about things, it becomes a problem. You know, I don't want to overwhelm you with Yoruba proverbs, but they cannot call you a thief and then you are dancing with the child of a goat.
Yeah.
All these proverbs, I don't think anyone else understands them. But in Yoruba, they make sense.
They make sense now. And there's also the one that you have a son who's not a dry cleaner, he's not a washerman.
Yes.
But he comes home every day with a new set of clothes.
I love that
one. With this phrase, I'd like to pay tribute to somebody who used to thrill me with this, and his name is dead now, Y.S. Akinibosun, and he was Fela's lead tenor saxophonist, and he would during the sessions would play it, and all of us would go all. There's also one man we called him Ibadan, and he could play it on the conga.
Wow! And you could tell because these are talking drums.
These are talking drums. Yes. So 9:50, Yemi. Oh, unfortunately, we have to go, but I'd like to take. Can we take one more call? Do we have one more call? Okay. Hello. Good morning. Quickly.
Hello. Good morning, Uncle Jimmy.
Quickly. We know who you are.
Okay. Please, I want to ask your guest, the sole administrator. Does he also have the sole power to appoint those local government administrators, or you should have worked with the civil servants?
Okay, I will restructure the question there. The implication of what he's saying is that the sole administrator seems to have all the powers of the governor. Is that right?
It's a matter of interpretation, but I personally doubt whether the sole administrator has the entire constitutional powers of the governor. The purpose of appointing an emergency administrator is to deal with the emergency. Sometimes it may not be necessary to even remove the governor.
Because you can't have two governors anyway.
No, you can't.
And the governor is still a governor.
Yes, I think this question has come before our Supreme Court on occasions previously, I think when they appointed General Bukbola, I think it was in whatever state it was. I think they've dodged the question. But I would submit that you exercise emergency powers to the extent necessary to curtail an emergency.
Yeah.
I cannot see why, if the emergency is blowing up pipelines or some breakdown of law and order, you need to assume the entire executive authority. But I don't know. And frankly, I haven't even read the declaration that was made. But then if the declaration indicated that there was a collapse of governance structure, in the Western region 1962, it was said that there was a contest between two governors, and this would create crisis. In the River State, I know that the House of Assembly had been demolished, which is an outrageous constitutional infringement, effectively removing the housing for the legislature. That is one such event.
And providing a place for them to meet, though.
Oh, okay.
He did that, and the excuse, let me use the word excuse he gave, was that he wanted to renovate it.
That's very cute.
Very cute.
Yes.
So, do we have two governors then in Rivers?
I think that that Governor Fubara is not a suspended governor. He's a governor who is not exercising the executive functions for the purposes of the emergency.
Is that good or bad?
I think it's problematic, but an emergency is a situation that is extraordinary and which requires extraordinary measures for a short time.
Because the gentleman has all political appointees, he threw them out of the window.
Yeah.
Are they coming back after 60 days? Then where would they have gotten the list of who to choose?
Yes, I suspect that the administrator has exceeded the exercise of powers required for whatever emergency was declared. But then again, he's accountable to the National Assembly. You see, the laws exist, the procedures exist, but then do the people exist? The accountability of the administrator depends on the responsibility of the National Assembly.
On that note, I got to let you go. Your son's been calling you. I got to let you go enjoy your toast and half-boiled egg.
Full English breakfast.
Full English breakfast.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
Okay, that's where we're going to end for today. On Tuesday, I'm going to have Captain Blade here. We need to look at what's going on in the security circle. As you can see now, I'm full steam back at work, and it's nice to be here. I think this is my first discourse after I turned 70. So, Yemi, cookie papa kutu Lord. Okay, Yemi, I'll see you. Yes. So I'd like to thank you too for the support that you've given. Don't go away. Don't touch that dial, because programs are going to continue. Indeed, they continue for 24 hours. I'll see you next week. Oh, sorry. Yes, next week on Tuesday. Bye.
You are listening to your number one station for talk.
99.3 Nigeria Info.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk. 99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info.